Chosen one, you are not here by accident. You did not click this message by chance, curiosity, or coincidence. Heaven aligned this moment with precision. While the world calls it a recession, the Spirit calls it a signal that something ancient, strategic, and hidden is moving beneath the surface. Right now you are standing at the edge of a supernatural shift where fear loses its authority and divine transfer begins. Chosen one. The headlines speak of collapse, loss, and uncertainty, but your spirit feels something different, doesn't it? A quiet knowing, a stirring that says this is not just a downturn, this is a doorway. Scripture reminds us that when others see famine, God prepares Goshen. When systems shake, covenant people are repositioned. As it is written, though the shaking comes, what is established by heaven cannot be moved. Anointed one, this season is not here to break you, it is here to move you. To separate you from the crowd, to place you where others cannot see, and to release a hidden wealth transfer reserved for those who remained calm while others panicked. This message is an invitation to see with spiritual eyes and to recognize that what looks like loss to many is alignment for you. So if something in your spirit is awakening right now, don't ignore it. Stay with this message. And as a quiet act of agreement, subscribe to this channel and type 777 in the comments. Let heaven know you are ready to receive what was hidden for you in this hour. Chosen one, listen carefully. What you are witnessing in the world right now is not chaos without purpose. It is shaking with intention. When systems tremble, heaven is not confused. When economies contract, God is not surprised. This is the moment when what was hidden begins to surface, when pressure reveals position, and when those who were quietly aligned step forward while others retreat. A recession does not announce itself as opportunity. It disguises itself as fear, and that is why most people miss what is happening right in front of them. I remember the first time I lived through a major economic downturn. The news was loud, relentless, almost hypnotic. Every headline trained people to panic. Conversations shifted overnight. Friends who once spoke about dreams suddenly spoke only about survival. And what struck me most was not the loss itself, but how quickly people surrendered their power. They sold in fear. They abandoned plans they had built for years. They believed the lie that everything was ending when in truth, something was repositioning. That was the moment I realized this truth. Recessions do not destroy wealth. They expose who was prepared to steward it. Chosen one. This is why you feel the tension in your spirit. You sense that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. While the world measures the economy by numbers, heaven measures it by alignment. While analysts debate causes and blame cycles, God is watching responses. Scripture reminds us that wisdom is proven by her fruit, and fruit only appears in season. This season is not random, it is revealing. The world will try to explain recessions in technical language. Gross domestic product, declining output, reduced spending, job losses. And all of that may be true on the surface. But beneath those explanations is a spiritual reality few are willing to face. When people stop spending, it is not just money that slows down. Confidence collapses, fear multiplies, and fear has always been the greatest driver of bad decisions. I have watched intelligent, capable people make irreversible choices simply because they could not sit with uncertainty. They traded long-term destiny for short-term relief. Anointed one, hear this clearly. You were never meant to react like the crowd. You were called to discern the moment. That is why you feel uneasy when everyone around you panics. That discomfort is not anxiety, it is discernment. You are wired differently. While others need certainty to move, you were trained to move by conviction. The market does not reward certainty. It rewards courage anchored in wisdom. One of the most misunderstood truths is this: no one can predict the market. Not experts, not billionaires, not prophets of finance. And that uncertainty terrifies people because they want control. But the ones who prosper understand a deeper law. You may not time the market, but you can trust cycles. Booms create excess. Excess breeds complacency. Complacency leads to collapse. And collapse clears the ground for rebuilding. This pattern has never changed, not once. I have learned through experience that panic is the tax the unprepared pay. When the economy is booming, it feels uncomfortable to save. It feels unnecessary to slow down. It feels boring to be disciplined while others indulge. I have felt that pressure myself. Watching people upgrade lifestyles, expand rapidly, take on debt because everything looked secure. But I also watched those same people struggle when the tide turned. Meanwhile, those who stayed quiet, who built reserves, who protected their credit and resisted the urge to impress, suddenly found themselves with options. Chosen one options are power. Liquidity is leverage, and leverage is what separates those who survive from those who ascend. This is why heaven emphasizes preparation over prediction. God does not reveal the day of the shaking. He reveals the posture to survive it. In Scripture, Joseph was not told the exact moment famine would begin, but he was given wisdom to store grain in season. And when the famine came, nations came to him. That pattern still applies. During economic expansions, people sharpen their appetites. During contractions, the chosen sharpen their tools. While others swipe credit cards, the anointed build capital. While others chase trends, the wise build foundations. This is not about greed. This is about stewardship. Wealth flows toward those who can carry it without being controlled by it. Now hear this, because it is uncomfortable but true. Recessions awaken three forces that dominate every downturn: death, divorce, and defaults. Lives end. Relationships fracture, debts collapse, and with them assets change hands. Homes are sold under pressure, businesses liquidate, investments are abandoned. This is not because value vanished, it is because urgency overpowered patience. I have sat across from people who sold assets they loved simply because they ran out of time or emotional strength. And I understood in that moment how wealth moves. Not to the smartest, but to the calmest. Behind the noise of the media, behind the fear-driven commentary, there is always a quiet transfer taking place. The crowd is focused on loss. The chosen are focused on positioning. This is where you must guard your heart, because it feels counterintuitive to act when everyone else freezes. It feels almost wrong to see opportunity when others are hurting. But understand this. You are not causing the storm. You are responding to it with wisdom. The ancient principle still stands. Buy low, sell high. Simple in language, difficult in execution, because buying low requires faith when evidence screams otherwise. It requires restraint when fear dominates the room. I have felt that tension myself, standing at moments where logic and emotion were in conflict, where every voice said wait, but wisdom said move. Those decisions changed everything. Chosen one. This is where I pause and ask you something honestly. Have you been preparing even when it felt unnecessary? Have you been resisting pressure to conform even when it made you look slow or cautious? Because if so, understand this. You were not falling behind. You were being positioned. Heaven does not rush preparation. It accelerates execution when the time is right. What looks like economic collapse to the world often looks like divine reordering to heaven. And the ones who understand this do not panic. They observe, they wait, they move with precision. The market will always bounce back. That is not hope, that is history. The only question is, who will still have the capacity to participate when it does? Chosen one, sit with this truth. You were never meant to be a victim of cycles. You were meant to navigate them. Let this settle in your spirit. Let fear drain out of your decisions. Let wisdom take its place. Because when the shaking intensifies, clarity will become your greatest asset. And those who stayed aligned will rise quietly, steadily, unmistakably. Chosen one. There is a moment in every cycle where fear becomes louder than truth. That moment is not accidental. It is the test. I have watched it happen again and again, not just in markets, but in people. When uncertainty rises, most people don't lose money first. They lose clarity. And once clarity is gone, decisions follow emotion, not wisdom. That is why two people can live through the same recession and come out with completely different outcomes. One leaves wounded, the other leaves transformed. I want to speak to you from lived experience, not theory. I have been in rooms where people whispered about layoffs, shrinking income, and playing it safe. I have also been in rooms where a few quiet individuals were preparing, not loudly, not arrogantly, but deliberately. They weren't predicting dates or chasing hype. They were building position. They understood something sacred: when the world tightens, heaven tests stewardship. Chosen one, you must understand this. When the economy contracts, credit becomes selective. Cash becomes king. Patience becomes rare. And discipline becomes priceless. This is why preparation feels boring in a boom, but feels prophetic in a bust. I remember seasons where I stopped spending when others were upgrading, where I chose restraint when others chose indulgence. It didn't feel spiritual at the time. It felt lonely. But later I understood that obedience often looks unimpressive until the moment it becomes necessary. The world calls it being conservative. Heaven calls it being ready. When recession arrives, people don't just lose income, they lose options. Jobs disappear, hours are cut. Debts that once felt manageable suddenly feel suffocating. Mortgages, loans, and obligations stack up, and panic becomes contagious. And panic does something dangerous. It forces people to liquidate value at the worst possible time. Homes are sold below worth. Stocks are dumped at the bottom. Businesses are abandoned just before recovery. Not because they were worthless, but because the owners ran out of time, faith, or margin. Chosen one margin is everything. Margin in finances, margin in emotions, margin in thinking. When you have margin, you can wait. When you can wait, you can choose. And when you can choose, you are no longer a victim of circumstances. You become a participant in transfer. This is where the hidden wealth transfer begins. Not in headlines, but in private negotiations. Not in public panic, but in quiet preparation. Assets don't vanish. They move from those who cannot hold them to those who can. And this movement follows patterns as old as Scripture itself. The prepared inherit what the unprepared release. One of the hardest truths to accept is this: recessions reward those who prepared before the storm, not those who react during it. This is why heaven emphasizes readiness long before opportunity appears. I have seen people surrounded by opportunity with no tools to harvest it. No capital, no credit, no emotional stability. And I have seen others step into rooms they never imagined, simply because they had positioned themselves quietly over time. Chosen one. This is why you were nudged to save when others mocked. Why you felt conviction to reduce debt when others normalized it. Why something in you resisted living at the edge of your means. That was not fear. That was wisdom being planted early. Scripture reminds us that the prudent see danger and take refuge, while the simple keep going and suffer for it. That truth has never expired. During recession, three forces dominate the landscape: death, divorce, and defaults. These are uncomfortable realities, but they are powerful indicators. When these rise, motivated sellers appear. Homes are sold urgently, assets are liquidated quickly, and suddenly prices no longer reflect potential, only pressure. This is where discernment matters, because pressure does not equal lack of value, it equals lack of options. I have sat with people who sold properties they loved because timing betrayed them. I have listened to stories of businesses that closed not because they failed, but because cash flow dried up temporarily. And I have learned this opportunity rarely looks noble. It often looks messy, inconvenient, and emotionally heavy. That is why most people look away. But you, chosen one, were trained to see differently. This is why investing during collapse feels unnatural to the crowd. It requires faith when fear is fashionable. It requires conviction when consensus says wait. But history is clear. Markets recover. They always have. Every crash has been followed by expansion. The only variable is who remains positioned to benefit from it. When others pull out, the anointed lean in. Not recklessly, not blindly, but strategically. Buy low, sell high. This principle is simple, yet few execute it because it demands emotional mastery. Buying low means buying when the room feels unsafe. It means acting when voices around you are loud with doubt. I remember the first time I did it. My hands shook. Not because the numbers didn't make sense, but because fear was screaming. But I moved anyway, and time proved wisdom right. The same applies to real estate. During downturns, buyers disappear, financing tightens, confidence evaporates, and sellers become desperate. Not because the property lost its future, but because they lost their present. This is where prepared individuals step in, with capital, with credit, with patience. Not to exploit pain, but to steward opportunity. Some buy and hold, generating cash flow, while others wait. Some buy and release when markets rebound. Both strategies work when timing meets preparation, but none work without readiness. That is the truth no one wants to admit. The stock market follows the same law. During recession, emotions dominate. People sell to stop the pain. They lock in losses to feel relief. But those who understand cycles know that panic selling transfers wealth to patient buyers. Indexes fall not because companies disappeared, but because sentiment collapsed. And when sentiment recovers, value resurfaces. I have watched people swear they would never invest again at the bottom, only to chase the market at the top years later. Emotion writes checks, wisdom has to cash. Chosen one. You were never meant to live that way. You were meant to observe cycles, not be consumed by them. Even businesses tell the same story. Not all fail in recession. Many thrive, especially those that solve real problems, necessities, discounts, comfort, escapism. When times are hard, people still spend. They just spend differently. Those who understand human behavior understand this shift, and those who invest accordingly align with reality, not fear. Chosen one. This message is not about greed, it is about alignment. Wealth is not evil, it is neutral. It flows toward discipline, toward patience, toward wisdom. And during times of shaking, it flows faster to those who can see clearly. Let this settle in you. You are not behind. You are being positioned. While others react, you are being trained to respond. While others panic, you are being invited to prepare. This season is not here to shrink you. It is here to refine you. Stay steady, stay alert, stay aligned. Because clarity in chaos is not common, it is chosen. Chosen one. There comes a point in every season of shaking where the noise fades and only truth remains. That moment usually arrives after fear has exhausted itself, after panic has done its damage, after the crowd has already made irreversible decisions. And it is in that quiet space that the hidden transfer accelerates, not loudly, not dramatically, but decisively. I want you to understand something that few people ever articulate. Recessions do not punish effort, they punish fragility. Anything built on excess leverage without wisdom or confidence without foundation eventually collapses under pressure. But what is rooted, disciplined, and patiently constructed does not break. It absorbs, it acquires, it expands. I have seen this in real life. I have watched individuals who lived just below their means suddenly find themselves with extraordinary freedom when others were trapped. Not because they earned more, but because they needed less. Their margin became their miracle. While others scrambled to survive, they quietly evaluated opportunities. They were not smarter, they were steadier. Chosen. One steadiness is a spiritual advantage. Scripture teaches that those who are faithful with little can be trusted with more. But faithfulness is rarely tested in abundance. It is tested in restraint, in the ability to say no when you could say yes, in the willingness to wait when you could rush. That discipline feels invisible until the moment it becomes decisive. When the economy contracts, banks tighten, lenders hesitate, institutions become cautious, and suddenly the same people who were approved instantly during the boom are now questioned. This is where character meets capacity. Those who protected their credit, who avoided unnecessary debt, who respected leverage, suddenly stand out. Doors open for them quietly, while others are denied loudly. I remember sitting across from a banker during a downturn. The atmosphere was different, serious, careful. They weren't impressed by confidence. They were impressed by history, by discipline, by patterns. And I realized in that moment that reputation is built long before opportunity arrives. You cannot borrow credibility at the last minute. You either carry it or you don't. Chosen one. This is why heaven emphasizes preparation in hidden seasons, because when the window opens, it does not stay open long, and those who are ready move while others are still asking questions. Opportunity rarely waits for consensus. It waits for readiness. This is also why age matters, even though the world downplays it. If you are young, time is your greatest asset. Recessions punish short timelines and reward long horizons. The younger you are, the more powerful patience becomes. You are not late, you are early. While others need immediate recovery, you can afford to plant seeds that grow quietly over decades. I have seen young people hesitate because they felt behind. They compared themselves to others who appeared further ahead during the boom. But when the cycle turned, those comparisons collapsed. Time leveled the field, and those who stayed disciplined found themselves with an advantage they never anticipated. Chosen one understand this deeply. Wealth transfer does not happen because someone loses. It happens because someone cannot wait, because someone needs certainty now, because someone lacks margin. You are not benefiting from their pain. You are inheriting what patience preserves. This is why buying low feels uncomfortable. It confronts your emotions. It challenges your instincts. It forces you to trust principles over feelings. I remember moments where every external signal said wait. Headlines screamed danger. Conversations echoed fear. But internally, there was a calm conviction, not excitement, not greed, just clarity. And clarity is the voice you must learn to honor. When you buy low, you are not betting on chaos. You are betting on recovery. And recovery is not speculative. It is historical. Every recession has ended. Every crash has reversed. The market does not stay broken forever. It resets. And those who position themselves during the reset experience growth others can't explain. The same applies beyond assets. Businesses born or strengthened during recessions often carry resilience others lack. They were forged in constraint. They learned efficiency. They learned to solve real problems. They did not rely on excess demand. They built on necessity, and necessity always returns. I have watched companies thrive during downturns simply because they understood human behavior. When money tightens, people prioritize essentials. They seek value. They seek comfort. They seek relief. Those who meet these needs grow quietly while others shrink. This is not manipulation, it is observation. Chosen one, you must train your eyes to see what others overlook, not trends, not hype, but patterns. People do not stop being human during recessions, they adjust, and those who align with that adjustment prosper. This is also where patience becomes critical. After positioning comes waiting, and waiting tests faith more than action ever will. Once you have acquired, you must resist the urge to rush outcomes. The market rebounds on its own timeline, not yours. I have seen people exit too early because fear never fully left them. They positioned well, but could not endure the silence that followed. Silence is part of the process. It is the space where seeds grow underground. Nothing appears to be happening, but everything is. This is where trust replaces control, and this is where many lose the transfer they were meant to receive. Chosen one, do not underestimate the power of sitting still after moving wisely. The same discipline that prepared you must now sustain you. Scripture speaks of those who wait on the Lord, renewing their strength. Waiting is not inactivity, it is alignment. As the economy begins to recover, sentiment shifts again. Confidence returns, fear fades, and suddenly the same assets that were abandoned are desired. Prices rise, opportunities shrink, and those who waited patiently find themselves in positions others can no longer access. That is when the transfer becomes visible. Not overnight, but unmistakably. I have seen this play out enough times to say it with certainty. The ones who prosper are not those who chase recovery. They are those who positioned during collapse and waited with discipline. They did not rush exits. They trusted cycles. They respected timing. Chosen one. If you feel a quiet confidence forming in you right now, honor it. Not arrogance, not impatience, just grounded assurance. You are not meant to panic with the crowd. You are meant to move with wisdom and wait with faith. This season is refining your vision, teaching you to separate noise from signal, emotion from principle, reaction from response. And as you integrate these lessons, you are being shaped into someone who can carry increase without losing clarity. Let this truth anchor you. The hidden wealth transfer does not belong to the loud. It belongs to the steady, to those who prepared when it felt unnecessary, to those who waited when it felt uncomfortable, to those who trusted wisdom over fear. Remain centered, remain disciplined, remain patient, because when clarity meets timing, elevation is inevitable. Chosen one. There is a sacred tension that appears just before transfer becomes tangible. It is the space where discipline must mature into identity. Many can prepare. Fewer can remain composed when preparation begins to bear weight. Because once opportunity appears, it tests not only your strategy, but your character. This is where many who positioned well still fall away. Not from lack of access, but from lack of inner governance. I want to speak to the inner work of this season, because no amount of capital can compensate for an undisciplined spirit. Recession reveals not only financial readiness, but emotional maturity. I have watched people step into opportunity and sabotage it with impatience, fear of missing out, or the need to prove something. They wanted the reward without the restraint. But wealth that is not governed becomes a burden, and heaven will not accelerate what would eventually crush you. Chosen one, understand this clearly. The same pressure that forces others to sell will tempt you to rush. You will feel urgency. You will feel the pull to move faster than wisdom allows. That is not intuition. That is adrenaline. And adrenaline is not a guide. It is a test. Wisdom moves calmly, even when time feels compressed. I remember a season where multiple opportunities appeared at once. Properties, investments, offers that looked promising on the surface. The temptation was to say yes to everything, to capitalize fully while the window felt open. But something restrained me, a quiet check in my spirit. Not fear, not doubt, just restraint. And later I saw how some of those opportunities would have stretched me thin, divided my focus, and weakened my position. Saying no protected the yes that mattered. Chosen one discernment is not about seeing everything. It is about choosing correctly. And in seasons of transfer, discernment becomes your most valuable asset. You must learn to filter opportunity through alignment, not appetite. Just because something is available does not mean it is assigned to you. This is where surrender becomes practical, not poetic. Surrender does not mean passivity. It means releasing the need to control outcomes. It means trusting that timing is as important as positioning. I have seen people force outcomes prematurely only to lose what they gained because the foundation was not ready to support it. When heaven releases increase, it does so in layers. Capacity first, then access, then expansion. Skipping steps feels efficient, but it creates fragility, and fragility always breaks under pressure. The chosen ones learn to honor sequence. Another truth few want to face is this: success during recovery attracts attention. People who disappeared during struggle suddenly reappear. Opinions multiply. Advice flows freely. And if you are not anchored, you will begin to move based on validation instead of conviction. I have lived through this. The noise after breakthrough can be louder than the silence before it. Chosen one, guard your counsel. Not every voice that celebrates you understands you. Not every opportunity that flatters you serves you. This is why humility must grow alongside increase. Pride leaks margin. Humility preserves it. Scripture reminds us that wealth gained hastily dwindles, but wealth gathered little by little grows. That is not just a financial principle, it is a spiritual law. Sustainable increase honors process. It respects timing. It builds resilience. And resilience is what allows you to carry abundance without losing peace. I want to speak to your heart for a moment. There may be a part of you that still fears missing the window. That fear whispers, "What if I wait too long?" But fear of missing out is not wisdom. It is anxiety dressed as urgency. The same God who positioned you will sustain you. Windows ordained by heaven do not close suddenly. They narrow slowly, giving the attentive time to move. This season also calls for simplicity. When complexity increases, risk multiplies. I have learned that the most powerful moves during downturns are often the simplest. Clear strategies, clean structures, transparent decisions. Complexity feels impressive, but simplicity endures, especially when systems are stressed. Chosen. One, simplicity is strength. It keeps you adaptable. It allows you to pivot without panic. It preserves clarity when others are overwhelmed. Do not complicate what wisdom has already clarified. As recovery begins, another test emerges. Comfort. The gradual easing of pressure tempts people to relax too early, to abandon discipline because fear has faded. But discipline is not for emergencies only. It is for sustainability. I have seen people regain stability and immediately revert to old habits. Spending expands, focus drifts, margin shrinks, and when the next cycle comes, they are exposed again. The chosen ones do not confuse relief with permission. They let discipline become normal. They allow restraint to shape identity. They understand that freedom is maintained, not achieved once. This is where mentorship matters. You need voices who have walked cycles, not just peaks. People who understand downturns and recoveries. People who value process over applause. I have benefited deeply from listening to those who survived storms quietly. Their wisdom carried weight because it was forged in reality. Chosen ones seek counsel that challenges you, not just encourages you. Encouragement fuels movement. Challenge preserves direction. Both are necessary, but challenge is rarer. I also want to speak to generosity in this season, not performative generosity, not reckless giving, but intentional stewardship. When increase begins to flow, there will be opportunities to bless, support, and invest beyond yourself. These moments anchor your heart. They remind you that wealth is a tool, not a trophy. I have experienced how generosity realigns perspective when success threatens to narrow vision. Generosity does not diminish capacity, it clarifies purpose, and purpose protects increase from becoming corrosive. Chosen one, do not underestimate the emotional fatigue of prolonged uncertainty. Even when positioned well, waiting wears on you. The mind grows tired. Doubt attempts to re-enter. This is where routines become anchors. Habits of stillness, reflection, physical care. These are not luxuries, they are safeguards. I have learned that burnout often comes not from lack of progress, but from lack of grounding. When everything feels potential, you need practices that keep you present. Otherwise, anticipation becomes anxiety. This season is not asking you to hustle harder. It is asking you to govern better, to integrate wisdom into daily life, to allow preparation to mature into stewardship, to let patience shape your decisions. Chosen one, you are not being rushed by heaven. You are being refined. The same hand that positioned you is teaching you to carry what is coming, quietly, steadily, faithfully. Let restraint become natural. Let discernment deepen. Let humility guard your steps. Because the transfer that endures is not the one that arrives fastest. It is the one that remains when cycles turn again. Stay centered, stay aligned, stay governed from within. Chosen one, as cycles complete their arc, there is a moment when alignment becomes visible. Not dramatic, not explosive, just unmistakable. It is the moment when what you prepared for quietly begins to support you consistently. Bills feel lighter, decisions feel clearer, opportunities feel fewer but more precise. This is not coincidence, this is confirmation. It is the evidence that stewardship has matured into stability. I want to ground this moment for you because stability is often misunderstood. Stability is not the absence of challenge. It is the presence of rhythm. It is knowing how to move when pressure returns. It is having systems that hold when emotions fluctuate. I have learned that the real gift of this season is not the increase itself, but the peace that comes with knowing you can carry it. Chosen one. Many people chase the feeling of arrival. They want the moment where everything feels finished. But wealth, like faith, is not a destination. It is a practice. And those who thrive long-term understand that cycles continue. Markets rise and fall. Opportunities expand and contract. What changes is not the environment, but the steward. I remember a season where things finally began to align externally. The tension eased, the fear lifted, and I noticed something unexpected. The temptation to drift returned, not into panic, but into comfort. Comfort whispers, "You've made it." Wisdom asks, "Can you sustain it?" That question reshaped how I approached success. I realized that discipline cannot be seasonal. It must be structural, chosen. One structure is what protects freedom. Without it, freedom becomes indulgence. With it, freedom becomes capacity. This is why the chosen build frameworks, not fantasies, budgets, systems, boundaries, rhythms of review and reflection. These are not restrictive, they are liberating. They allow you to enjoy increase without being consumed by it. Another truth you must hold is this: visibility changes relationships. As alignment becomes evident, people will relate to you differently. Some will celebrate genuinely, others will project expectations. A few will attempt to access what they did not prepare for. This is where boundaries become an act of love, not rejection. I have learned that saying no clearly is kinder than saying yes resentfully. Chosen one, you are not obligated to carry everyone. You are assigned to steward what has been entrusted to you. Even Scripture teaches that each person bears their own load. Compassion does not mean depletion. Wisdom honors capacity. This is also the season where gratitude anchors you. Not forced positivity, but grounded appreciation. Gratitude keeps perspective wide. It reminds you of where you came from and why you prepared. I have found that gratitude dissolves entitlement quietly. It returns joy to stewardship. It keeps the heart soft while hands stay firm. As the recovery solidifies, new opportunities will continue to appear. Some will be aligned, some will be distractions dressed as progress. The measure remains the same. Does this strengthen what is established or dilute it? Does it deepen clarity or fragment focus? The chosen do not chase growth at the expense of coherence. Chosen. One coherence is underrated. It is when your actions, values, and direction agree, when there is no internal argument about who you are becoming. That internal unity creates external momentum. It attracts partnerships that fit. It repels opportunities that would compromise peace. I also want to speak to rest. True rest, not escapism. Rest that restores perspective. When you have carried pressure for a long time, your nervous system needs recalibration. Without rest, clarity dulls. Decisions become reactive. I have learned to schedule rest with the same intention as strategy, not as a reward, but as maintenance. Chosen one rest is not a lack of ambition, it is a recognition of limits. Even Scripture reminds us that there is a time to work and a time to rest. Ignoring this rhythm eventually costs more than it saves. As stability becomes familiar, generosity will find its proper expression. Not impulsive, not performative, strategic, quiet, impactful. You will recognize moments where your resources can create leverage for others without compromising your foundation. These moments are sacred. They align wealth with purpose. They remind you that increase was never just about you. I have experienced how generosity resets orientation. It shifts focus from accumulation to contribution, and contribution anchors legacy. Wealth that ends with you remains small. Wealth that flows through you multiplies. Chosen one legacy is built in ordinary decisions repeated consistently. How you spend, how you save, how you invest, how you respond to pressure. These choices accumulate quietly until they tell a story others can feel. Your life becomes a testimony without needing explanation. This is also where humility protects you. Humility does not deny competence. It acknowledges source. It keeps learning alive. I have found that the moment I assumed I had mastered a cycle, I became vulnerable to the next one. Humility keeps you teachable. It allows adjustment before correction becomes necessary. As markets stabilize and conversations shift from fear to optimism, remember what you learned here. Do not forget the lessons of restraint, patience, and clarity. Do not let memory fade when comfort returns. Write them down. Encode them into systems. Pass them on wisely. Chosen one. This message was never about predicting the next downturn. It was about forming you into someone who can navigate any season with wisdom, someone who sees beyond headlines, someone who prepares quietly, someone who waits faithfully, someone who moves decisively when alignment appears. If you feel steadier now than you did before, that is evidence of growth. If fear has loosened its grip, that is confirmation of clarity. If your decisions feel simpler, that is the fruit of discipline. Carry this forward. Let it shape how you live, not just how you invest. Let it influence how you speak, how you plan, how you respond to pressure. Because the true wealth transfer is not only external, it is internal. It is the shift from reaction to response, from impulse to intention, from fear to faith-informed wisdom. Chosen one. You are not defined by a single cycle. You are shaped by how you steward many. And as you continue to walk in alignment, what you carry will continue to grow, not just in value, but in weight, purpose, and peace. Stay grounded, stay grateful, stay disciplined. And remember this: when wisdom leads and patience holds, increase follows naturally. Chosen one, as this message comes to a close, take a moment and let your spirit settle. What you have heard was not information alone. It was alignment. Heaven has already begun the movement you've been sensing, and the transfer unfolding around you is not delayed, not confused, and not accidental. You are standing in your exact Kairos moment, the appointed time, where preparation meets release and faith meets manifestation. Anointed one, the shaking you see in the world is not meant to shake you. It is meant to position you. What others experience as loss, you are being trained to steward as opportunity. Remain faithful to what you have learned. Stay disciplined. Stay grateful. Stay anchored in wisdom. The same God who guided you through preparation is now guiding you into possession, step by step, quietly and surely. I declare clarity over your decisions, peace over your timing, and favor over every door that must open next. May you move forward without fear, without haste, and without doubt, knowing that what is assigned to you cannot miss you. If this word resonated with your spirit, stay connected to this space, subscribe if you feel led, and leave a comment sharing the city you're watching from as a simple point of agreement. Carry this message with reverence. Walk forward with confidence. The transfer is already in motion, and you are exactly where you are meant to be.